John, we do have some police scanner audio. So this is right before we're told that the police beat Tyree Nichols. So this is then when I think they're first pulling him over. So let's listen to that.
We got one male black running over there set up for him.
You know, the Scorpion car pull over to East Ranger Road. You have one running on foot.
Just run that tag and see what the address. Show me barricade.
He's fighting at this time. Check them out.
What do you hear there, John?
So I hear they've made the stop, but we don't hear that part. And then he's running. And then he comes on and says, run that tag and see where it comes back to. So he's gotten away. And they're trying to figure out, well, if he's running home, where is that? Because it could be nearby. And of course it is. It's about half mile away.
And that's standard police stuff, right?
That's right.
Standard.
I mean, that's what they should be doing. And then the next person you hear on the air has caught up to him and is fighting and calls out the street that it's happening on, which is his street. He's about 80 yards from his home. And then he's calling for backup. So there's a whole bunch of questions that Shimon says, still need to be answered, but let's go through a couple of them.
Yeah.
What was the stop for? This is a missing piece. They said reckless driving originally, but what was the reckless driving? No one's articulated that. What was the first altercation about that resulted in him being pepper sprayed and running away? And then what was the second altercation about? All of these are still blanks. And what we've been told is that when the tape is released, you're going to see the incident from end to end, and some, if not all of these questions will be answered.
Shimon, one of the things that the police were charged with was aggravated kidnapping, and that got people's attention because what does that mean? So, I know that you asked that question. We were told that that meant that he was sort of unlawfully detained or contained somehow. Do you have any more information on that?
Yeah, that was one of those charges that really, I think, caught many of us by surprise, because you certainly never see this in these kinds of cases. So we don't have any clarity. The way the DA explained it is you may have had an initial proper stop, and they may have been legal, let's say. And then as you go through this encounter and you go into the second encounter, then that is where that may have occurred, where it was an illegal detainment of some kind. And because of the nature of this and how this all unfolded and their aggravating circumstances, that's why they charged this kidnapper. Remember, there are also the allegations here that the victim here was handcuffed during this time, during some of this beating. Certainly the DA wouldn't talk about that, and that is something we will likely see in the video. So that could pertain to that as well.
John, they're going to release this video, we're told, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. That's a Friday night at 6 p.m. Does that make sense to you? Is that sort of ripe for trouble?
If this were in New York City and I was in the NYPD and this came up, I would want this on a Tuesday.
A school night, a work night.
Yeah. But I think what you're seeing in Memphis is they have delivered the beginning of justice. They have brought extraordinarily serious charges, and a slew of them against each officer. They have arrested them, and one of them has made bail, others are trying to raise bond, but they are now in the system. And I think the way they are choreographing this is, let's make sure that people see that justice is being done. That's the beginning of it. And then we'll release the tape, because if they did them together, I think justice would have been largely drowned out by the shock over the tape. I think they wanted people to digest that the system is working, and then see the tape. And then they have all day today, they have tonight, and they have all day tomorrow up until 5 o'clock when they're going to release this.
They're going to do it at 6 p.m. I should clarify, 6 p.m. local time in Memphis, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. here, to do that community outreach, to say, if we're going to march, let's march together. If we're going to protest, let's protest peacefully. And I think that Memphis is confident that they have a handle on this. Now, Ali, the question is, what does that mean in New York, in Chicago, in LA, where they're...
And are they prepared?
Well, they've been preparing. And, I think they are waiting and watching carefully. And I think they're all going to be watching this tape.
John, thank you. Shimon, thank you very much for being on the ground for us.